Right now, someone in your life is reading you better than you're reading them. That changes in the next few minutes. Because every person leaks exactly how to outsmart them. Instantly, in real time, in their words, their silences, their tells. You just haven't been trained to catch it. Nietzsche was. These are his 18 truths. This isn't a list you skim. It's built in 3 parts. Each one sharper than the last. Miss one, and you lose the move that makes the next one work. Stay to the end, and the very next conversation you have, you'll already know what to do before the other person does. You were raised to trust what people say. Words are currency, and you were taught to take them at face value. That single assumption is the reason most people are so easy to outmaneuver. Nietzsche didn't trust speech. He believed language was rarely a window into truth. It was a tool built by what he called the herd, a survival mechanism people use to stay safe, stay liked, and avoid confronting anything too uncomfortable to say out loud. What you're seeing on the surface of a person, their tone, their confidence, their kindness, isn't the person. It's the version of them built to get through the day without getting hurt. And every version like that has a seam, a place where the construction is under strain. Here's the psychological mechanism behind it. Humans build identity the same way they build habits, through repetition of whatever kept them safe. A child who got attention through humor becomes the adult who can't stop performing. A child who got punished for anger becomes the adult who insists they're never mad while their jaw is locked tight. None of this is conscious. That's what makes it so useful to you, because if someone doesn't know they're doing it, they're not guarding against you noticing it either. Nietzsche said every person of real depth needs a mask. He wasn't being cynical, he was giving you a strategy. Don't waste your energy negotiating with someone's mask. Locate the seam and you control the exchange. Nobody announces their real position. It shows up sideways. In the pause before an answer, the laugh that runs a half second too long, the sudden need to change the subject, the moment things get close to something real. Miss these signals and you're negotiating blind, reacting to whatever someone hands you. Catch them and you're already several moves ahead before they finish their sentence. And this is Nietzsche's first psychological truth. 1. Everyone wears a mask, and every mask has a weak point. People construct a version of themselves designed to win approval, not to deceive you. It's survival, not strategy. But that construction always has a stress point, and stress points show up as tension. A flinch, a stiffened posture, a topic somebody visibly avoids. This matters because tension is involuntary. It's the nervous system reacting before the conscious mind can smooth it over, which means it's the one signal a person genuinely cannot fake. The moment you notice that flinch, don't back off out of politeness. Lean toward it, gently. Ask one small, low-stakes follow-up near the topic they avoided. Watch how much information they hand you just trying to steer away from it. 2. What someone attacks in others is a map to their own insecurity. This is projection, and it's one of the most reliable tools in human psychology. The person who can't stand arrogance in others is almost always managing insecurity about their own status. The one obsessed with catching liars is usually protecting a lie of their own. Psychologically, this happens because it's easier to punish a trait externally than sit with it internally. Attacking it out there creates distance from having to face it in here. Stop tracking who someone praises. Track what they go out of their way to criticize and how often. That repeated target is a direct line to their own unresolved insecurity. And once you know what it is, a small, well-placed compliment in that exact area buys you trust almost instantly. 3. Silence gives away more than a confession would. Nietzsche was suspicious of talk in general. He believed most conversation exists to avoid confronting reality, not reveal it. Which means what someone won't say, often more diagnostic than what they will. The hesitation before an answer, the topic steered around, the flat rehearsed line to a genuine question, these are all cognitive load in real time. The brain works harder to dodge truth than to state it, and that effort is visible if you're watching for it. When you hit that pause or deflection, don't fill the silence for them. Let it sit a beat longer than feels comfortable. Most people cannot tolerate that silence. They'll fill it themselves, usually with more truth than they meant to give you. 4. Loud morality is a mask you can break instantly. Watch the person constantly announcing how ethical, humble, or good they are, always correcting everyone else's behavior. Nietzsche called this the will to power wearing a costume of virtue. Psychologically, performative morality often exists to manage the performer's own self-doubt. If I can be seen as clearly good, I don't have to examine whether I actually am. That performance is fragile because it depends entirely on an audience believing it. Ask one calm, specific question about their own consistency on the exact value they preach. Not an attack, a genuine question. Watch the performance stall in real time, because the one thing it can't survive is quiet scrutiny. 5. People lie to themselves before they ever lie to you. I'm completely fine. It doesn't bother me at all. These aren't strategic lies aimed at you. They're lines rehearsed so often the person has started to believe them. Nietzsche treated this kind of self-deception as a defense mechanism, not dishonesty, a way of surviving something too heavy to look at directly. Psychologically, this is the mind protecting itself from a truth it hasn't built the capacity to hold yet. Don't chase the lie itself. Chase the gap between the claim and the behavior. If someone says, "I don't care," but their voice tightens, ask gently. Fine, like, actually fine, or fine, like you've said it enough times you believe it now. That question goes exactly where they're not guarding, because they never expected anyone to notice the rehearsal. 6. Superiority is a costume for feeling inadequate. People who constantly remind you of their achievements are typically running from the fear that it isn't enough. People who casually put others down are often terrified of becoming irrelevant. Nietzsche's whole framework of the will to power explains this. The drive to dominate is usually loudest in people who feel like they're losing ground, not people who are actually secure in their position. Real confidence has nothing to prove, so it doesn't compete. When someone is visibly competing with you, don't compete back. Go quiet. Let them keep talking. The silence does more than any comeback. It removes their audience. And without an audience, the performance has nowhere to go. This isn't about being cruel. It's about never being caught off guard. None of this is about humiliating people. It's a way to never walk into a room blind again and to stop mistaking someone's performance for their reality. The colleague who talks over everyone in meetings isn't dominant. Nietzsche would say they're terrified of being erased from the conversation entirely. And that fear is exactly why acknowledging them once, by name, wins their loyalty faster than any argument could. The person constantly broadcasting how perfect their life is might be one honest conversation away from admitting they're not okay, which tells you exactly how to approach them if you ever need something from them. The sharper your read on someone becomes, the less power their performance has over you. That's the actual skill Nietzsche was describing. Not seeing through people to embarrass them, but seeing through them so nobody can posture their way past you again. If you've ever caught someone's tell in real time and known exactly what to do with it, drop a comment and tell me the moment. And if this is already sharpening how you see people, subscribe now, because we've only covered 6 of 18. Spotting the mask is step 1. Knowing exactly when and how it cracks under pressure is where the real advantage lives. You've probably noticed it without naming it. Someone's expression tightening for half a second when a belief of theirs gets challenged. A voice going flat the moment a conversation edges too close to something real. A laugh that doesn't quite sync with anything actually funny. Nietzsche didn't believe identity was fixed. He believed it was assembled, held together under strain, and capable of cracking the instant that strain increases. Which means it's not just something to observe, it's something you can apply pressure to deliberately and predict the result. 7. Almost everything someone does traces back to fear they can't consciously name. Why does someone over-explain a decision nobody questioned? Why do they go silent exactly when things get emotionally loaded? Nietzsche argued that human behavior is driven far more by what people are afraid of losing, status, love, safety, than by what they claim to want. Fear operates faster than conscious reasoning, which is why it shows up in behavior long before someone could ever articulate it. Stop asking what someone wants. Ask plainly, what are you actually worried will happen here? You'll watch them answer a question you never technically asked because the fear was already sitting right below the surface, looking for permission to come out. 8. Someone's favorite criticism is a confession spoken about someone else. The man who mocks emotional people is frequently at war with his own. The woman fixated on other people's appearance is often locked in a private battle with her own. Nietzsche's read on judgment was that it says almost nothing about its target and everything about the person delivering it. Criticism requires the critic to first recognize the trait, which means it has to already exist somewhere inside them. The next time someone repeatedly criticizes a specific trait, mention that trait casually and watch how quickly they change the subject. That deflection is your confirmation. And once confirmed, you know exactly which topic makes them uncomfortable enough to avoid entirely. 9. Unshakable confidence is often a performance built to bury guilt. You know the type. Composed, certain, never visibly rattled. Nietzsche saw this constantly in people with authority, leaders, teachers, public figures performing certainty because being genuinely seen terrifies them more than being wrong. Psychologically, chronic overcorrection toward confidence is frequently compensation for something the person hasn't forgiven themselves for. Ask one small, specific, non-confrontational question. Not a challenge, just a detail they'd have to actually think about. Watch the jaw tighten or the pause lengthen before the answer arrives. That half-second delay is the crack, and it happens whether they want it to or not. 10. People betray themselves through exaggeration. I genuinely don't care what people think almost always means the opposite. Nietzsche saw extremity in either direction. Total certainty, total indifference as a symptom of imbalance, not strength. Exaggeration functions almost like psychological noise cancellation. The louder the claim, the more insecurity it's working to drown out. When you hear an absolute statement like that, repeat it back to them, softer, as a question. You really don't care at all? Watch them backpedal in real time. The exaggeration collapses the second it's reflected back without judgment attached. 11. People obsessed with control are managing internal disorder they can't admit to. The micromanager. The person who can't tolerate a last-minute change of plans. Nietzsche's take was that an unmanaged inner world gets projected outward as an obsession with managing everything external. Controlling the environment becomes a substitute for controlling the anxiety underneath it. Introduce one small, harmless change to a plan on the spot. Nothing malicious, just unexpected. The size of their reaction tells you the size of the internal disorder they're actually managing. React big to something small, and you've just measured exactly how close to the edge they're living. 12. The louder the performance, the emptier the core underneath it. Look at how people curate their lives publicly, the constant need to be seen, the performance of a perfect existence. Nietzsche would have called that desperation, not confidence. Someone performing constantly usually doesn't believe they're worth attention without the show, which means genuine, specific, unprompted attention becomes disproportionately valuable to them. Instead of engaging with the performance, give one quiet, specific compliment about something real, not the highlight reel. Watch how fast the volume of the performance drops once they feel actually seen instead of just watched. By now, you're probably already doing this without trying. Walking into a room and clocking the subtext before the small talk even starts. The interrupter isn't arrogant, Nietzsche would say. They're terrified of disappearing from the conversation entirely. Acknowledge them once, by name, and you've already won their cooperation before the meeting's even over. The constant self-promoter is broadcasting an old wound in public. Validate it briefly and privately, and watch how quickly their guard drops around you specifically. This isn't a party trick. Once you can see this clearly, you cannot unsee it. And every interaction becomes a slightly different game than the one everyone else in the room thinks they're playing. Most people are carrying something fragile behind a composed face, and knowing exactly where that fragility sits means you are never the one caught off guard, blindsided, or outpositioned again. If this part hit, the final 6 take it further. This is where it stops being about reading a single moment and becomes about knowing exactly why someone will react the same way every time before they even do it. Something in you is operating differently now. You're not just watching people anymore. You're several moves ahead of them before they've made their first one. One layer left. Every behavior traces back to a belief, and every belief traces back to a wound formed long before you ever met them. Nietzsche didn't just catalog behavior for its own sake. He traced it back to its root, because the root is where the real leverage actually lives. Know the wound, and you know exactly how someone will move, every time under any pressure. 13. Nobody argues from logic. They argue from an old injury wearing logic as a disguise. People like to believe their opinions come from reasoning. Nietzsche disagreed. He believed most rational positions are wounds dressed up as arguments. Someone insists love isn't real, just chemistry and convenience. That's not a conclusion. That's a scar talking. People build their worldview around what hurt them, then reverse engineer the logic afterward to justify it. Stop debating the position itself. You'll never win an argument against a wound using facts. Instead, ask softly, what happened that made you land there? Watch the entire argument deflate, because you just walked straight past the logic to the actual source, and there's no counter-argument to a memory. 14. How someone treats people who can't help them is exactly how they'll treat you the moment you stop being useful. Forget how someone behaves around people who could challenge them. That's a performance built for an audience with power. Watch how they treat a waiter, a stranger, someone with nothing to offer them. Nietzsche believed real strength shows up as restraint, not domination, and its absence shows up fastest around people who can't retaliate. Pay attention to this one moment before you ever trust someone at a deeper level. It costs you nothing to watch, and it tells you more accurately than anything they'll ever say about themselves directly. 15. Attention-seeking behavior tells you exactly what someone is starving for, and starving people are predictable. The person who needs every room to circle back to them isn't confident. Nietzsche read this as a fear of disappearing entirely, of being forgettable. Underneath the need to be noticed is almost always the fear of being erased. Give one specific, unprompted piece of attention before they have to perform for it. Watch the posture shift almost immediately. You've just bought a meaningful amount of loyalty for the cheapest possible price. A sentence. 16. Whoever someone attacks the hardest is often who they secretly wish they could be. People don't always lash out from hatred. Sometimes it's admiration they can't allow themselves to feel, because tearing someone down is psychologically easier than admitting envy. The coworker who mocks someone's success, the friend who picks apart someone's confidence, that's rarely simple cruelty. It's exposed longing. Say the target's name warmly in conversation and watch the reaction sharpen. That reaction is confirmation. And now you know precisely what they secretly want for themselves, which tells you exactly what to offer or withhold depending on what you need from them. 17. Adults replay their childhood on a loop without realizing it, and loops are predictable. People don't change isn't quite accurate. Nietzsche's version would be closer to people repeat. They keep performing the roles assigned to them early, the fears drilled into them, the dynamics they never got to leave behind. The kid who was never listened to becomes the adult who's terrible at listening. The kid who had to earn love becomes the adult who overperforms for approval, even at real cost to themselves. Ask one gentle question about how someone was raised, mid-conversation, unprompted. Watch how quickly their current behavior explains itself once you see the origin. And once you know the loop, you'll know how they behave under pressure before it happens. 18. Someone's patterns will tell you the truth. Their words never will. People often can't articulate what's actually driving them, but they'll show you the same way over and over if you're paying attention. The one who disappears the second things get real. The one who buries themselves in work to avoid stillness. None of it is coincidence. Each pattern is a message they can't say out loud. This is how I protect myself. This is where I was hurt. When someone runs their pattern, disappearing, deflecting, overworking, don't chase it. Mirror it. Go quiet exactly when they usually would and watch them come back faster than expected. You just use their own pattern against the pattern itself. You now understand something most people will spend their entire lives never seeing clearly. That behavior is never random, that every mask has a seam, and that the people who seem hardest to read are usually the easiest. Once you know what you're actually looking for, this is what separates people who get outmaneuvered from people who never are again. If this changed how you'll walk into your next conversation and how you won't let anyone outsmart you, subscribe and like this video, because 18 Truths is just the beginning of what Nietzsche understood about human nature. And if one of these truths already made you think of someone specific, you already know what to do with that. Drop it in the comments.